Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news out of the Magic Kingdom, where Disney has decided that Splash Mountain will be rethemed and will now most likely carry a theme of Princess and the Frog. Now, Jeff, this is all in response to the outrage over, Splash Mountain being themed on the old movie Song of the South, which you can no longer get anywhere from Disney at all. So what are some of your thoughts here initially on this big retheme?
Well, I think it's probably, quite an upgrade for them to take an old IP and kind of replace it with something a little bit more relevant, especially something that kids might be discovering on Disney Plus. Now, even though
you won't find Song of the South on Disney Plus.
No, you will not find Song of the South on Disney Plus. You cannot find it on DVD. You will not find it on Blu-ray. You will not find it on VHS.
You may find it on
only
bootleg,
find it on
though.
Laserdisc in Japan, and that might tell you something about how Disney feels about this.
I tell you what. So let me give you a little history of Song of the South before we continue here.
Sure.
Song of the South. I know when eBay was first around. I don't know if you could still find it today, but you could purchase Song of the South on a bootleg DVD. So there are copies floating around out there of there. But let me give you a little synopsis. It's basically a live-action and cartoon film. It is a set on a southern plantation with two little kids who are visiting their aunt or uncle or something like that, and or a relative of some sort. And they meet Uncle Remus, who is a slave, a very happy slave, happy to be enslaved in the South. And that seems to be where all of the controversy comes in, is the portrayal of this Uncle Remus character and how he's happy to be enslaved, and he's happy to be a slave, and it's actually where we get the song Zippity Doo Dah from. So it all plays into this characterization. Now, the cartoon section, of which most of Splash Mountain is based upon, is the story of Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, and it is actually derived from an old African folk tale. And this old African folk tale is how, Brer Rabbit overcomes oppression and defeats Brer and Brer Fox. So it's this big little guy versus big guy story, the classic David versus Goliath, overcoming oppression from Africa. So there's a lot of nuances here, as you can see. The ride isn't really based on the movie with those racist sections. There's some narration there. There's one lift hill that you kind of are going through an old barn. There's some, hints of, houses in the distance that could be a plantation. So there's not a whole lot of overt racist iconography here. There were the three crows that they got rid of. Can you explain to us the three crows maybe? Because you kind of know about that.
Yeah, I remember going on this ride as a kid, and I remember them being on it. I feel like it was at the top of the last lift hill, maybe, like kind of like giving a warning. And I remember that they kind of had that the same kind of like speech rhythm and the same kind of like stereotypical speech pattern that you would expect like a dated movie from like the 40s or 50s to have. And that was like kind of warning you, that you were coming to danger. And then I watched the POV, before we talked to kind of like refresh my memory, and I realized that they were gone. So they were, apparently removed in the past. The whole theme paralleling, like the story and the history at the same time. I mean, it's probably just inappropriate.
Well, you come to the point, and I argued with Danny when we first heard this a few weeks ago when there was a rumor out there of people calling for this to be rethemed. And I said, you know what? Here's where I come down on this. I said there's a lot of different levels. You have a racist movie that Disney can't show anymore, that Disney themselves has determined to be inappropriate. So not me, not you, not the internet, not Twitter, but Disney themselves have said Song of the South will not be part of our catalog. That wasn't my decision. That was Disney's decision. So that's what they decided many moons ago. So this is not like a recent, thing in response to anything. This was decided, 20 years ago at this point already, maybe even more. So you have that level. Then you have the level of this being based on an actual traditional African folktale. Now, the issue is it's not overtly African. You would not know that this is an African folktale by just going through this ride. There's nothing African about it. It's just based on this story that Disney adapted, just like Disney adapts stories from all over, with Aladdin and Little Mermaid and Frozen. They're adapted from popular stories done in different eras and different times and different places. So once again, not different. So you have that level. But I think the level that I come down on the most is that it's a dated IP. Who knows, if you're a kid going to Disney World, who knows who Brer Rabbit is? Who knows who Brer is? The only place you're introduced to these characters is on Splash Mountain.
Yeah,
and if that's the case, get rid of it.
I remember at the time when I was a kid, that was my question. I was like, who are these people? Like,
Yes.
I don't know this movie. Like, how come I know everything except for this? And like, I feel like it was like told to me so I can enjoy the ride almost. Like, it didn't make sense. And to me, I really enjoyed Splash Mountain when I was a kid. It went over my head. I have gone back as an adult, and I noticed it a little bit more. But the ride itself is very well done. Of course, it's got a nice little chorus. The drop is exciting. It's what you would expect. But I feel like the nostalgia, versus that inconvenience, it's like a non-decision really.
Well, and Disney's going through this whole reboot right now anyway. That they are rebooting everything. So the same people that were outraged over Tower of Terror being rethemed to Guardians of the Galaxy out west, they're now outraged over this. There's just so much retheming going on with the new Guardians roller coaster going in Epcot, with Moana taking over a different attraction with the walkthrough. Like, they are now just adding IPs, current IPs, onto everything. We know a person that still isn't over Maelstrom being gone, right?
Yeah, I think so. And Maelstrom
was the worst. It was the worst ride. It was about oil rigs in wherever. Like, who cares? Who cares? The only worst theme is Blue Fire at Europa. Like, who would theme a ride after natural gas? I don't know. But it's just, they're getting rid of all these old rides that are telling, and granted, they were good. They were good for the time. I'm not saying they're bad rides. Splash Mountain is an amazing ride. But let's move on into the future. And Disney's looking at it from the perspective of, hey, we're going to sell you something, and we're going to sell you something new. And because Splash Mountain was not overtly African, let's put it into something. Let's put the first African-American princess in there. Let's put Tiana in there. Let's do Princess and the Frog. And I kind of think that the ride's going to work. I think the whole boat ride through New Orleans, there's going to be some really cool scenes with the voodoo guy. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff in this, maybe just as cool as Splash Mountain, because Splash Mountain had a lot of good scenes in it. I'm not saying that it didn't, but I think Princess and the Frog can have maybe just as many.
Yeah, and they retain what's best about it. So they retain this giant structure with, I mean, that ride is like, what is it, like 10 minutes?
Yeah,
8
it's
minutes?
a long
It's a really long ride. So you got this epic amount of space to build in. You've got a big drop at the end, with I'm guessing they'll update the head chopper a little bit. I don't know, maybe a paddle wheel. I don't know, something river themed, or but you're gonna kind of keep the guts, the part that's really good about it, and replace it. And like I said, upgrade. It's gonna have current technology. It's gonna have the special effects that people are used to seeing.
Well, and the other thing too is I've seen some people complain about where it's located. Well, it's Frontierland. Well, it's Frontierland at Disney World, at Magic Kingdom, is really just Thunder Mountain and this. And honestly, Splash Mountain's not Frontier.
Isn't Splash Mountain in the southeast?
Yeah, Splash Mountain's a southern plantation. So I don't know how you guys define frontier, but Southern Plantation in like Alabama, not frontier. Not frontier at all. So I just don't understand that argument either. And then Disneyland, it's even easier because it's like critter country, and you got you got Haunted Mansion right next to it. Like there's a whole lot of stuff going on with Country Bears, and Country Bears is another dated IP. So you have the Winnie the Pooh ride, which is good for the kids. But I just don't get, like, I get people are like, oh no, don't change this. And then you add on this extra layer of racist people not wanting to see their old racist things go away. So, it's just, to me, let's move on. Let's move into the future. And what made Splash Mountain good probably is not going to go away. The drops, the ride itself, cool scenes. What made Splash Mountain good is probably not going to go away at all. So unless you don't like African American princesses, then you might have an issue.
And you're out of luck.
then you are out of luck there. And sorry, but I don't care at that point. So I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine, what would be a better fit. The only other thing that kind of came to mind was Moana.
Yeah.
But the mountain and the sea voyage are kind of like, I don't know, they were a little too separate, but that was like the only other thing that kind of because of the water.
I've always wanted something with Coco to be done, because I think Coco's obviously that's not going to fit anywhere in that whole theme. But Coco, they always talked about redoing the Mexico pavilion and making the boat ride in there into Coco. I wish they would do that too. Because the three Cabrillos with the three ducks might not be racially sensitive either at this point. But Coco would be amazing to be done in Mexico. Moana, they kind of just announced the Epcot thing, the walkthrough, which I don't even know what it's going to be yet. It's like Moana and water. But it would have been really cool to do a Moana thing inside the mountain, because that has a lot of cool scenes too, I think. That you could do something with. I just think Disney needs to take more advantage of, and you can throw stuff at me, whatever, needs to take more advantage of their IPs. And that has always been the knock of Disney World, is that you go to Disney World and it's like you enter into this time warp, which in some respects is cool, because it's like stepping back, oh, this is cool, this is like timeless. But then there's also, hey, we got all these new movies, we need to do something with them. Not having a Frozen ride for so long kind of boggles the mind. Not capitalizing on Princess and the Frog, not capitalizing on, things like Moana. Like, these are the things that are going to have to be done if Disney wants to stay relevant. Universal down the street is doing all that stuff, admittedly not well, but they are putting in rides based on more current movies like Fast and the Furious. I'm not saying that they're good rides, but they're definitely capitalizing on IP.
They're not afraid to take out and switch things up over there.
No, and they do it often too. So it's not like, it's like, hey, this is a ride, and if this isn't working, let's pull it out. Let's do something else. Like, you look at something like, Back to the Future. It's now Simpsons. They just pull out Terminator. Going to probably make it into Bourne Supremacy. Why, I don't know. They just make poor decisions. That's not their fault. So it's just like Disney has to do more of that. Has to stay up with the times. And the real classic rides. And I'm sorry, but when was Splash Mountain built?
1989.
1989. Like, come on. Like, this isn't like it was like an original installation at Disney World or Disneyland. This isn't like something like Peter Pan's flying boats. This isn't the Dumbo ride. This isn't iconic Disney. This is Splash Mountain. It's a fun ride. People liked it because it was a fun ride, not because of the story. Some people probably fell in love with the story afterwards, but they liked it because it was a fun ride first and foremost. So you lay on a whole new IP over it. People will care, but nobody should care.
Yeah. Well, there's probably just as many people that sat through, a 7-8 minute boat ride to go down the log flume.
Yes. And now at least you can do some research before you go and understand the story of what's going on, as opposed to not being able to do that because Disney says Song of the South is not appropriate for viewing. So there you go.
I think the last time it was on television was right before the ride was announced. Like
probably. Like I'll tell you what, I don't feel like I've ever seen it. I've seen clips of it. I've seen the clips that are the issue in it. I can vividly remember those. But it's just one of those things. Like if I at one point I was bidding on a copy of it just to see. One time, I was bidding on a copy on eBay at one point. I did not win that copy.
You're in that bootleg circle, though.
Yeah, that bootleg. I've been known to travel in and out, much like Jack Sparrow. I'm no stranger to bootlegging. So as always, we will keep you updated here on all the things going on. I'm of course Andrew Barczyk from Chicago, Illinois,
and I'm Jeff Goodman from Long Island, New York.
Yeah. Go Union, right? The North, right over here.